Ooh, we actually opened up with Zaborg here, which is actually quite nice. We could trade in it, but more likely this is going to be the better call. We will, however, be able to go ahead and reveal that, get the ritual monster, and we'll be good. So we're going to go ahead and special summon the one that lets us add the monster, which is going to be the Talismandra. And since Candle is a light, I like how we open up with it like literally like the first time. As long as this doesn't get stopped, this is 100% going to be a game. So we'll just go ahead and add that young Chaos Max. I guess I could have went for Chalice and go for some RNG here, but I'm not really down to do this. So because these don't use your normal summon, we're going to go ahead and normal summon Zaborg here. And the point of this is trying to showcase off Blue Eyes Chaos Max in 2019, how to actually play it. Now, what you want to do is get rid of a bunch of your cards. It doesn't really matter at this point, like the other cards in the extra deck. What's more important is just looking at your opponent. You know, he's playing the bees. Okay, so normally you'd get rid of like Borreload, number 41, Crusadia, Astrum, Avermax. It doesn't matter. Like, we're just getting rid of like everything. So we get to select what he sends to the graveyard, and I can just select like every single like one of his monsters pretty much. I feel bad, but like this is how you play Blue Eyes in 2019. And then on top of this, you're able to just search off all 3 of your effects. And at this point, my opponent basically loses. But we just need to go. We should just go Advanced Ritual Art, and then we can go ahead and go for another Chaos Max. And then basically you just double Chaos Max. Another one, and because we have that trade-in, we're able to actually draw a little bit more. I was actually interested to see like what are majority of decks outs in this. I think we got Indulgence here, which is kind of useless, but the most important thing is to go to Advanced Ritual Art first, and then you Chaos Form because you go from the graveyard. So you just summon one, and then you summon another one. I'm surprised that this guy actually stayed in, even though arguably like his deck is not considered meta. The whole point of this is literally to utilize Zaborg, and then I have an impermanence, which is kind of lucky here. We can go ahead and actually set this as well, just as a bluff, just for some extra memes. But more than likely, there's no out for him. I believe he could do some small amounts of burn damage, but like I said before, he's gonna go ahead and hit those double cards. But I don't know what you do in the main deck of the Battle Wasps that would actually deal with this, but let's not sign him out yet, alright? So he's going to go ahead and summon Arbalest, the Rapid Fire, but he has lost out on a bunch of stuff in the extra deck. However, unless... Okay, so he's going to go ahead and make it Great Fly. Let's make it so all Earth monsters lose. Okay, so he's going to activate Summoning Swarm. But like, what can you go into? Again, most main decks won't have an out to Chaos Max because you can't do anything to him. Triple Blade Flies, get them all up to high attack, and then get pranked anyway. So he's going to target a Battle Wasp, and then special summon it, and then banish this card. You can banish the target insect, and it can't be destroyed by battle by card effect. Okay, until the end of the next turn. Oh, it's an insect monster, so this one can't actually be destroyed by battle by card effect. But again, it doesn't really matter at this point. Because I was genuinely curious to see like how Chaos Max fared, because it's a very strong card, right? And then if this one is destroyed, you get to target level 3 or lower insect in your graveyard and special summon it in defense position. You know what we should have done, honestly? We should have attacked the Arbalest first, because him getting another monster in defense position would just allow us to do massive amounts of piercing. But I want to see genuinely this deck. I wanted to see Battle Wasps for so long play out. But so you can add another Battle Wasp. I just want to see what he can do. But like I said, I do know that that would have been the smarter play. But it basically shows off Chaos Max in 2019, specifically the Zaborg build, because most main decks will not have an out. If you're playing against the Salaman Great, all you really need to do is simply hit the one that increases attack. I believe it's Helio, and then you pretty much should be good to go, as far as I'm aware of. as long as you hit, you have multiple cards to hit. Because you have 8 cards to hit, and at that point you can leave them with the Baylinks, you can leave them with the triple Baylinks, double Sunlight, you can leave them with like that, and then like what do they do with that? And then like you can also leave like Hita, like there really isn't too much I would say that he will be able to do with only 1 card in the extra deck. I'm really hoping to see what he makes, but oh yo, are we losing a battle boss? If it attacks with higher attack, you can have that opponent's monster's attack during damage calculation. Okay, when it inflicts damage, you can inflict another 200 points of damage. Okay. I'm just glad we got to see a battle wasp. Alright. That's hilarious. Alright. Oh, he actually got over 1 Chaos Max. So we take another set of damage. But unfortunately, he did put these in defense mode. I'm not sure if the card required him to. But the goal of this deck is once you Zaborg them, you're going to be 100% able to get up Chaos Max. That's just how this deck is. So at this point, I mean, do we really need to do anything? We could literally hit that, and then he just takes, like, enough damage. Actually, this has less. Insane stuff, dude. Insane stuff. And that's going to be game. Most decks, he actually got over 1. The 1 card in his extra deck. But I had another play that I want to showcase off with Chaos Max. I don't remember what I named it. But it looks like this guy was playing some... Oh, Orcus Dangers is what he was playing. But I honestly think this is the way to play the deck. So you can see like he's going to go ahead and go for the Danger, go for Jackalope. And I'm actually curious to see what he tries to go into. So he actually lowers this by 1,000. Not that it matters because it's Orcus. Orcus anything will usually end up with the Phantom Knights, Rusty. Then they set the double Fog Blade, which it does absolutely nothing. In fact, I don't know what you're going to pull out. Okay, so he sends that card to the graveyard, courtesy of the Dingrisu. This is another like thing that like sometimes you just can't deal with as a Blue Eyes deck. It's a very linear deck, but I did want to try to cover Blue Eyes Chaos Max, and that Fog Blade is not going to be able to hit that. So he goes ahead and protects that card, because if it would be, if any card would be destroyed, you can go ahead and do that. So he Twin Twisters his own card just so he can go ahead and see what else he has. He really needed to link up into Borreload, I think is the out. But I didn't even Zaborg him this time. This is what would be considered like high tier deck, and he just like just left the game at this point. Yeah, but he really should have actually just went into that. But nonetheless, we also had an impermanence that we had potential. But yeah, like I said, this is the build for Blue Eyes. I was messing around with it for a little bit on stream, and I really feel like this is the build for Blue Eyes that just makes it so much better. Chaos Max in 2019 is very viable because, again, a lot of decks won't have an out to him. But anyways, let's go ahead and hop right into the deck profile. So we were running 3 copies of Blue Eyes, obviously for Advanced Ritual Art. Then we have 3 copies of Zaborg. We have 3 copies of the Talismandra. This actually should be at 3. Advance is the best. Advanced Ritual Art, okay. Advance at 3 and then prep. Sorry, so I just had to fix that real quick. Anyways, so I was running 3 Blue Eyes, 3 Zaborg, 3 Talismandra. This is for anyone that would play the Secret Village of the Spellcasters. This allows you to play out of that. It's not really used for any other effect. Then we play 3 Candle, because, well, normally in any ritual deck you probably would want to play 3 anyways, but more importantly, it is a light. That is also the other reason why we're playing 3 copies of Pen Silver or Pencil Plume. The card will never really get its effect off, for, of course, adding the ritual monster in your graveyard. But because there are things where you can just discard, I do like it specifically for that, because you have trade-in as an option just to get rid of this and later get it back. And then we have 1 copy of Chaos Dragon just because it's a searchable card, and on top of that, it happens to be level 8. I don't really ever summon this card. The whole goal is literally just to Chaos Max and Zaborg. Zaborg gets rid of anything that would out this card specifically. And then we have 3 copies of Chalice Slime. You could opt to play 2. I just like this card so much just because it lets you for summon any incantation, and it's really important that it is a light, because Zaborg will only get its effect when it's a light monster that you tribute. And then I'm running 2 copies of Lure, and then 1 copy of Desires, 1 trade-in, 2 copies of Melody, and then I'm running 1 Extravagance. You don't really need your extra deck. I mean, it helps out to have these. It's RNG in what you get, but like you only really need to hit 1 to actually be able to pull off 2 most of the time. If you can successfully keep both of them, it's fantastic. But like I just wanted to play as much draw power as possible. I honestly considered, instead of Indulgence, just to run another copy of Desires, because this is mostly going to be a very linear deck where you want to throw it out turn 1, get out double, or just even if you're going first or your opponent goes first and you go into your first turn, you have to throw out double Chaos Max immediately to try to basically make it game as quickly as possible, because there are very little outs again in the main deck. Maybe a Kaiju, but again, usually when you have 2, it's difficult for most players. But then 1 Magical Mallet to recycle some of the blue eyes really is kind of helpful. And then you have 2 copies of Bingo, and then we have 2 copies of Preparation. You will not be able to search out blue eyes, unfortunately, but the more important card that you're actually trying to search for is the Chalice Slime. This card is just so important for your opening plays. Because of the Zaborg build, you really need to actually have the specific light. Well, you can technically special summon Candle anyways, and that's going to allow you to add the ritual spell, but it's usually the monster that you really need to add. Another thing that I wanted to mention, just as a heads up, you cannot play Manji because Manji would use up your normal summon. If you want to play double summon, by all means go for it, but yeah. And then we're at doubler. Anyway, we were talking about Bingo. I honestly think that maybe you can drop Bingo to 1. The reason why is because you can only activate 1 Bingo per turn. But then I was thinking about like how good Bingo can be, because it's anything that specifically lists blue eyes. So it lets you kind of go through cards. You can honestly drop this. That's fine. I think that this is actually probably a better option. But it's just because like you have certain cards that you can just discard for this, and it's totally fine. But Preparation of Rites and then Chaos Form. Like I said before, exactly like you saw in the replays, make sure, or in the play, make sure you activate Advanced Ritual Art first, because you can banish that other blue eyes and then you'll be good to go. And then we have the Incantation Celebration. This is actually my favorite discard target, because if this card's in your graveyard, you can send another incantation from your hand or face up on the field after you special summon it and you don't need it anymore. Perhaps of course, you do need to make sure you have 2 tributes for your Zaborg, but sometimes you can get an extra one on board and you literally don't need the card at all. And at that point, you can send one of them, and then you can special summon an incantation monster from the deck. Again, the most important thing is the light, and then just this in case there's a card that I do need to deal with. I was also thinking actually of Swords of Concealing. This could be another option, because like I want to say most people that are probably interested in playing Chaos Max in 2019 might be a budget player, and that's totally cool. Actually, whatever. There's an errata on this card. Anyways, this card is also another fantastic card, because you literally just flip face down. Like if you're playing against like Thunder Dragons or anything that really stuns, you could just force them to put their monster face down. And sometimes there's a lot of cards where it's like, if you have this card on the field, then you can activate this card. But if it's face down, they will use whatever negation that they have. So, you know, I'm just going to suggest this for most players. It's a much easier card to use. You can also run Book of Taiyu just so you can make it so if your opponent would have an out, that's another really great card. Oh no, I'm sorry, not Book of Taiyu, Book of Eclipse, which is the quick play. So basically, even if they draw like 2 extra cards, a lot of times decks will only, like I said, have like 1 or 2 outs in their entire deck. And if you disrupt that, then they're gonna have a bad time. I also thought about Ash Blossom and like running other hand traps, but I felt like I just want the consistency to get this. All that matters is we get that out turn 1. There's a lot of draw power here just to bait out any of the Ash Blossoms, but yeah, like there's just so many like other cards that they might actually hit, and sometimes they don't really know what to hit in the deck, and they'll think like, oh, I'll just have this one out. But then when you summon the Zaborg, they're like, oh shoot, dude, it's game over, which is kind of cool. The extra deck doesn't really matter, except for having these. These cards are important. So the Elder Entity can pop a bunch of cards after it's sent to the grave. Then this lets you search out 3. Like this is actually pretty broken, just to be able to go through 3 cards. Just add them for free. But if you extravagance, obviously that kind of hurts. But again, if you're activating Desires, then you're not going to extravagance. because I just recently like made some modifications to this deck. I honestly think that because this card's also like not very budget friendly, let's just put in 2 desires, or even if you want to, you can put 1 desires and then one feel free to do whatever you want. Maybe Swords of Concealing Light, because again, if you activate this, you're not going to be using this. If you activate this, well, you can't draw any cards by other card effects, so it kind of hurts the trade-in as well. So you know what? Let's just do this. I think this will be a good build for Chaos Max. If you guys want to play it in 2019, because I had someone ask me that, and I'm like, you know what? It's really not that bad of a deck. I mean, the only really bad matchup that you have, like you would absolutely destroy Sky Strikers. You play against a lot of different decks that require like the targeting to get rid of it, and it's just not there. And then once they try to go for the extra deck and they realize, well, you just looked at their entire extra deck and got rid of every answer that they would normally have, it's actually not that bad. Like, I don't know, that's at least my thoughts. The only bad matchup, like I said before, is Dinosaurs, because they're just going to flip everything face down. And then from there, if they happen to have, like, the, Pentasag, like, you just loosen, man. But I think that Blue Eyes Chaos Max in 2019 is not a bad idea if you play the Zaborg build, because if you Zaborg, well, dude, easy, dude. I mean, you know, we clapped those those bees real fast, ripped the bee movie, but I didn't think that deck was good. But again, it didn't matter what deck my opponent was playing. For the most part, except for Dinosaurs. That's the only matchup that I would say is relatively difficult if you Zaborg. Like, comment down below what other things would actually beat this deck. Off the top of my head, off the meta, like, even against the Orca Sky, he didn't technically make the extra deck cards, but I would have just gotten rid of them anyways with Zaborg, and then at that point, like, what does that deck do? Without the Orcus Exceed or Borload, I don't think that he had an out to it. In fact, let's just go back really quick. I actually want to see what his out was, because remember, he already went through his Orcus card, and then he, for whatever reason, didn't go for this. I'm pretty sure he could have at one point, but again, I would have just gotten rid of all of that. And then at that point, like, what do you do in this deck? Like, I don't think he's running the, let's see if he's running, like, any Kaijus in the main deck. I don't think you'd be playing the Kaijus anyways in this, but, like, you just win. And Orcas are easily one of the best decks. Anyways, feel like I ranted a little bit towards the end, but honestly, like, I was trying to think about what beats this deck if it doesn't have an extra deck, and the answer is very little things. But anyways, that's the Chaos Max deck, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below on it, if you would swap anything in and out. It's a fun thing. You know what I was actually trying? Okay, I know this is like off topic. I was actually trying Waboku. Like, I'm not even kidding. Waboku and T-Roar, because there were so many times where like you would go for like double, triple, sometimes even 4 incantations, right? And then like they don't do anything because you just like advance control art, and then like, sit there. I'm like, well, if I just Waboku, I can like make links next turn. I can go like a Borload Chaos Max. I'm like, dude, this is so good. Or even like other options with the one that moves to defense, right? Then you just a piercing. It's not that bad, but I don't think the Waboku build is the one. The Zaborg build is legit. It's a really easy way to beat people. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like on it. And if you have suggestions for the Chaos Max deck in 2019, pull off easy wins except for Dinos. That's the one bad matchup. It's good, dude. It really is pretty good in 2019. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Peace out. Have a good one. And hope you enjoyed the vid. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more of these decks in action with some deck profile. Peace.